Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
Today we're covering the other live-action Ben 10 movie, Alien Swarm.
This movie is canonically part of Ben 10 Alien Force. It shows Ben, Gwen, and Kevin, yes they rhyme, trying to stop a hive mind alien invasion.
And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, notification bell does some future podcasts from all the past videos.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support.
Yes.
This movie had one of the first, this movie shows one of the first attempts of a network attempting to do live action adaptation, and they really worked hard in trying to cast people that they thought would fit the animated counterpart.
Right.
They really did try. They weren't successful in a couple things, but you can see the effort was really made to make this as close to the animated version as possible.
Yeah. Looked like the best one that was casted was Kevin.
Yeah.
Everyone really loved live action version of him. It was almost like it was no different. He was spot on for his looks and for how he acted and his smart A comments to everybody. He was perfect. Ben was...
I think Ben fit, but they should have smoothed his hair out like in the anime. They left his hair curly. All he had to do was take it and flatten it.
Yeah, I was like, why is his hair different?
He was being fine. He was kind of... He kind of didn't have any energy, but
yeah, he was missing a little bit of his lighthearted side. They kept him like the straight man the entire movie. I guess because Kevin was bringing in all the lines, decided to make Ben straightforward, but Ben would say some weird stuff too, and that'd be part of the charm and adding some levity. Gwen, they kind of just changed her character. There were points where she acted like her, and some instances there were things she would say, but for the most part, she acted kind of different. Like she didn't trust Ben as much. She worried more. She didn't want to listen when he said he had it. They didn't want to try to save somebody and listen to Ben try to find a way. It kind of went from Kevin was the best cast, Ben was okay. Wasn't the best, but they tried, and then Gwen was sort of not as great.
And Grandpa Max was off totally. I know that this gentleman who did it was a much older actor, and Nana even knew.
Yeah.
Weren't familiar with him, but to me, based on the animated version, he just didn't fit.
Yeah, and it really threw you off because they had great casting Lee Majors in the first one where it was 10. Then you get to here, and I thought they were bringing him back. And no, they got a whole different guy to play him. He had an southern accent, which I understand is how he naturally sounds. And he really didn't act anything like Max. He had the dialogue of Max, but he didn't act like Max. They kept him where he had his Hawaiian shirt, which is the wrong color. He had a plumber base still that they really didn't exist until now. And he ate weird alien food, and then that's about it. So it was really off. I didn't feel like you were watching Grandpa Max.
Now they did really do well with the car, of course. That was the best thing.
Yes.
Bellwood sign. And I remember you were saying they can't decide if they're going to be a big city or a small town.
Yeah.
They can't pick their mind up.
Yeah, it always goes back and forth between a city in animation and a small town live action because it's cheaper to film small group of people in a giant area, so they just kind of keep going back and forth. So I guess the excuse is they got a smaller area of the city and then a large metropolis style area, which you need to make more clear.
Now one of the best things as far as the CGI, I think they did a pretty good job with Big Jump.
That was the best design out of all of it. And it was also the easiest because they didn't have to animate his mouth movements. His mouth doesn't move when he talks like Coral Sensei, so it was really easy to have a voice coming out of him. And the only problem is they did not have D. Bradley Baker. They just had Ben in a lower tone. He sounded exactly the same, and that kind of threw me off, but it was only one line, so it's really not that big of a hard line.
Now here's the thing, it could not have cost that much more money to get D. Bradley Baker. I don't know why when these producers and directors and casting people make these, dumb choices, where they don't get the original people to voice the aliens. It could not have cost that much money to get D. Bradley Baker and add him.
Right.
You had people doing the movie who were unknown, except for the one playing Grandpa Max. I'm guessing this was done in Canada because the locale wasn't recognizable, and you didn't have a lot of set. There was not a lot of set. It was pretty basic.
Yeah,
and the mom and the dad didn't look anything like mom and dad. It's not like they put out a total ton of money for this movie.
Right.
It did not cost so much money that it couldn't have Dee Bradley Baker do the aliens. And this happens very often. It doesn't matter the studio. That's one of the dumbest things these people can do. It doesn't cost that much. It's like someone says they don't want those people involved, so they don't hire them. It's not so much as that they cost too much as they don't. There's no way Dee Bradley Baker costs more than the entire cost of making this movie.
Right.
So there's no reason he shouldn't have made their voice the aliens. They just want their loss because, as you said, that took away from the effect of hearing Big Chill, hearing Humongous Sword.
Right. He didn't speak at all, and then Humongous Sword didn't speak at all, and then they had a new alien that they ended up using in the animated show, the one called Nanomech, was supposed to be one of the Hive mind aliens, and he took their form so he could infiltrate them. And that was a new alien that they did use later, but it's like they really didn't want to have to animate the aliens. They did Big Chill, which was easy. Humongous Sword they did in the dark, so it would be pretty easy to do too. Nanomech was new and small. That was fine. Everyone else was
ultimate Humongous Sword.
No, he was just regular one. He just didn't speak. He just sounded like a dinosaur. And then Nanomech was a whole new alien that was easier for them to do because he's teeny tiny, so they didn't have to put as much money.
My ultimate is green and has the helmet.
Yeah, you're right. And that's why they kind of went with, I say they have a 3 alien limit, so they picked 2 that are recognizable and made up a new one which they use later. The rest they said were too difficult to design in the 3D, in the real world, so they just picked 2 easy ones and made a new one that would be easy to animate. And then they made up an excuse for Ben to stay in his regular form, which is, I guess, fits with the show. All the watches on the fridge can't transform, so he stays human for a majority of the film. It's like, of course it messes up.
And what they did was they had a character that appeared in the movie.
Yeah.
Be animated to appear in the actual series.
Right. Her name, I think, was Alana. Not to be confused with Symbiotic Titan. And she's looking for her father, who was experimenting on these nano chips and didn't know they were actually alive. Thought it was just controlling them with the mind, but they have like a hive queen, so they work like a swarm of bees. And she needs help looking for him. And apparently, I did not recall this because it's been years since I had seen it the first time. Apparently, she and Ben knew each other when they were little. Ben liked her when they were really little. She moved away, so I guess that was his real first crush instead of Kai, which was a little odd. And the whole conflict was nobody trusted her except for Ben. He wanted to give her a chance, but Gwen and Kevin and Max were like, no, don't do it. You're making a mistake. Get her out of here. They were kind of more aggressive in here when they say no. And it kind of was taken away from their dynamic built in the show if it was canon. Because when it gets to near the end of the movie, Ben wants to save her father. And Gwen and Kevin told him it's too late for him. Don't risk it. And it didn't make sense because Ben has proved to this point time and time he found a way to save everybody, and he tells them that he didn't have to.
And it also didn't make sense because remember what happened when Kevin went whatever that form was.
Yeah, the ballistic one.
And she wouldn't quit. She never gave up on him no matter what anyone said. She didn't do it. Kevin has expressed the same thing at different times, like with Argent and so forth. So it just didn't make sense that this was their behavior in the movie.
Right. It was like they were all kind of against each other because of this one thing, and they didn't think Ben could save him. They just leave him, and that was so unlike them after this point where he always found a way to save people, whether they were good or evil.
And you're so excited, I know the family was when this movie came out. But unfortunately, this is one of the big things that makes this movie not seem to fit the franchise. The characters weren't the characters. So for Kevin,
yeah,
the characters were not the characters. The feel was not Ben 10. The work was not Ben 10.
No.
You could tell it was done on a small set. It didn't have a lot of they didn't have a lot of to be outside the small set. You had, of course, the car driving down the street and so forth. That was great. But you really didn't have a lot of action adventures outside the small set these people were on.
Yeah.
And that, coupled with the people being uncharacteristically not themselves, made this movie not feel like a Ben 10 production. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and I think that's why they really didn't do any more live action with Ben 10 until recently when they announced a live action series. I don't know what's going to happen there. If it depends on if it's going to be streaming or TV, because they can be really cheap and decide, well, we're not going to have them turn about one alien per episode, so we can just have them live actions, keep most of the money for ourselves. They could do that, or they could actually put in the effort and make the aliens live action. I don't know.
Well, granted, when this was made, CGI was not as great as it is now, not as easy to use and to construct. So, I'm going to have faith and believe that they're going to do a much better job with this than they did with this movie because of the time period.
Yeah.
Also, as Ben 10 fans, we're very happy this movie was made. We just would like them to make something different.
Bigger than what it was.
Right. If you've seen Ben 10 Alien Storm, let us know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with us? Were you happy with it? Really, we want to know what you think. And if you haven't seen it, you're going to have to search for it. You can rent it on Prime. You can't buy it, but you can rent it on Prime.
Right.
And if you haven't seen it and you are a Ben 10 fan, then you should see it. Regardless of how it didn't live up to what the rest of the franchise has done, it still was a fun venture for Man of Action in the studio to make a live action adaptation. They were the first ones to do it, to see how it was done then, and then you can also use it as a comparison to how this live action series is going to be now.
Right. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and weekly videos of your favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely, and keep staying tuned because we're almost at the end of our ride of the Ben 10 franchise covering.
Yes. So, thank you so much for watching. I'm Mask Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.